What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Crawdad Lake. Today, I'll be reading chapters 5 through 8, aka the end, of my book, Drowsy and Deceitful. Before I begin, I'd like to preface this by saying this is my 99th episode of Wattpad Read Alouds, meaning that next week will be my 100th episode. If you have anything you'd like to see for next week's episode, because it is the 100th, let me know in the comments below. I could read some of your fics. I could read a whole fic in one go like I did for my 100 subscriber special. Anything. I ran out of ideas. So without further ado, here is Chapter 5, Switchers. 1 week later. Paddin kept asking to see Janus, while the others tried stopping him, trying to get him to relax. They all knew that if Paddin saw Janus in his new state, he would freak. Within the last week, Janus has grown really pale and way too weak. His purple eye began looking more puffy and dark. He also became more stiff, and his scales grew thicker. Logan was the one taking care of him most of the time. Janus was in so much pain, but he was too tired to even lift an arm. He also has been pretty touchy, which was normal for a human that is tired. Although Logan has been in Janus's room for a week without leaving, and the others were starting to get worried for him as well. Paddin, Virgil, Roman, and Remus's point of view. They start off the morning by having pancakes together. The syrup was already all over Remus and Paddin, as Virgil and Roman tried their best to keep their outfits syrup-free. While eating in silence, Paddin spoke up. "Hey, guys, we haven't seen Logan in a long time. Is he still with Janus?" Everyone looked around at each other, not wanting to admit that Logan has been gone for that long, until Paddin spoke up again. "I know you guys keep stopping me for some unknown reason, but I really think we should check on them." Everyone once again stopped Paddin, Remus taking his hand and dragging him back to his seat at the table. "Well, I do believe that they should be checked on, but I will do it." Roman interrupted. "No, I will do it. A brave prince such as I is very capable of such responsibility." Paddin started to get notably frustrated and worried. Going to check on Logan and Janus is not going to hinder the mental health of Thomas or anything. If anything, my constant stress and worry over them is going to get worse. Virgil then stepped into the scene. "I guess you're right. We shouldn't have kept trying to stop you like that." Paddin then turned around to start walking up the stairs, only to be stopped by Remus once again. "Remus, let me go! I'm gonna go check on Janus." Remus then walked in front of Paddin, so that he's facing Mr. Mustache. "Can I come with you?" Paddin tilted his head in what looked like confusion. Roman just took the two by the hands, with him standing in the middle, and then walked both of them up to Janus's door, with Virgil looming behind a bit. "Okay, we should be quiet. We won't want to disturb Janus." After speaking, Roman twisted the door handle open gently to find Janus on the ground in a mound of blankets under a huge lamp. His scales were more scaly looking. The human side of his face was bright red. Luckily, he was asleep, like he should be, so they would be no disturbance as they were quiet. "Guys?" Paddin trailed off, stepping back a bit. "I think we should get someone else to help Janus." Lying underneath Janus was Logan, who was super pale. There were red marks on his forehead, and very prominent eye bags. "I could get Logan and take over the—" "No!" Paddin was cut off by Remus, who stepped in front of him. Well, enough, Paddin. I should spend the day, or, two, with Janus. I could probably help him. I'm not one for standing still, but I know him better than all of you combined. It wasn't as bad then, but he did have problems like this last year, and I helped him through it all by myself. So I'd like to say that I could be a bit more qualified than all of you." The three looked at each other and came upon the agreement before they all sighed and turned towards Remus. Virgil was the first to speak up. "Go ahead, Remus. I remember that Janus would cry and sleep more in the winter, but I always figured as a child that it was because he was cold-blooded or whatever." Roman then turned towards Janus and Logan. Task 1 is to get the nerd out of here. Next task is Task 2. Make sure that Janus is comfortable with Remus being in there. Roman and Patton then went up to the boys who were sleeping. Patton, when I give you the signal, grab Logan from under Janus's body as I lift Janus up. Patton gave Roman a thumbs up as Roman started to do a countdown with his fingers. He then stuck out his tongue as he reached down and picked up Janus. Patton rolled Logan to the other side of the pile of blankets so he could easily be picked up. Right before he was going to send him back down, though, Janus wrapped his arms around Roman and nuzzled his face into his stomach. Logan, you're a little warm, he mumbled from Roman's shirt. Roman slowly sat down on his bed and petted his head to keep him calm and from opening his eyes. Remus picked up Logan and cradled him in his arms, carrying him to the door. Roman looked up from where they were sitting, still petting Janus. I'm sorry, Remus. You can do it next time, okay? I don't want to bother him anymore. Remus nodded in agreement, shifting his arms from under Logan to help him hold the nerd better. At this time, Remus, Patton, Logan, and Virgil quietly left the room, leaving Janus and Roman on the bed. This is how it worked for weeks. They occupied each other while one person was watching Janus for a couple days to a week. The only difference between them and the first time Logan went in is that they checked on them regularly and brought food, water, and things to do. Additionally, as the weeks went on, Janus started sleeping for 5 days at a time, waking up for 2 minutes only to fall asleep again. The sides made sure that Janus, along with each other, was feeling okay. Everything was doing fine. Until February. Chapter 6. Walking Trade-Off. February. Everyone, with the exception of Janus and Virgil, were in the dining room getting ready for dinner. Patton sat down, sitting down, a plate piled with steaks for everyone. Everyone grabbed a steak off the plate, leaving singular steak to bring Virgil. They were scooping up potatoes and chatting when someone walked in. Janus, what are you doing here? You should be in bed. Patton jumped up to Janus. Patton, I've been in bed for the last 3 or 4 months. I needed to get up and walk at some point. Janus yelled at Patton. He jumped back. It also seemed the exhaustion from the yelling had caught up to Janus because he stumbled a bit and collapsed on the counter. This is when Logan spoke up. Patton, can you step back from Janus, please? He looked scared and hurt, but he did step back to Logan's request. Janus, would you like me to walk with you? Janus looked up from the counter. He had his head on and nodded. All right, would you like to walk yourself, or would you like to hold on to my arm? Janus looked up, his eyes glossy. I would like to walk myself, but I know that I can't. Give me your arm. Logan put out his arm for Janus to hold on to, and they slowly walked out of the kitchen. Janus, where is Virgil? Virgil's still in my room. I awoke in and he was asleep, but I couldn't lay down any longer, and I didn't want to wake him. Logan was searching for another question to ask to keep the conversation they were having going, indeed of making this a very weird, awkward, and silent walk. Do you feel any less tired? Janus huffed and went on to walking. No. In fact, I'm even more exhausted than I remember. I just couldn't close my eyes, and my joints were all tight, and I wanted to walk. Well, I'm glad you're doing what you feel is best for you. Janus smiled and leaned more onto Logan, resting his other hand on the shoulder for more support. Logan winced in response. Are you okay, Logan? Janus asked. Yeah, I have a bad shoulder. We can make our way back to the kitchen. I am sure Patton would be thrilled to walk you. Janus nodded, and they started to head back to the kitchen. Hey, Patton? Patton turned around from where he was finishing the dishes. Yes, Logan? Logan huffed a bit, and then helped Janus into the chair before speaking. I am sorry for keeping you away from Janus. It is just, we are worried about you and Thomas, and it's okay, I understand. I find it cute when you worry, but I miss Janus so much. Yeah, I kept him from you for the last 6 months because you barely ever take care of yourself. I didn't want you to make it a habit to take care of Janus all day, every day. Not to mention I don't know how it would affect Thomas's mental state if you were to see Janus at his worst. Once again, Logan. It's okay. You don't need to explain yourself, but I should go back to the dishes. Logan caught Patton's arm as he started to turn around. I'll handle the dishes. You can spend time with Janus. Patton's eyes went wide. Really, Logan? Thank you so much. One condition. Take time to take care of yourself. Patton nodded and turned to help Janus walk into his bedroom. Patton mouthed, "Thank you," one more time as he helped Janus walk around a bit. It was about 15 minutes into the walk when Janus was practically collapsing, even while holding on to Patton. Well, Janus, you ready to head back to your room? Janus shook his head no while rubbing his cheek in Patton's shoulder. I don't want you falling. Janus tried to stand up straight, only to fail and end up leaning back on Patton. I don't want to go back to my room. Not now. I need a change of environment. Patton looked down at Janus and started rubbing his arm. Well, I guess you're right. How'd you like to come to my room and stay there for a bit? Janus looked up at Patton and stuck out his little snake tongue. Patton, you need your space, too. Patton continued to pet his arm. I know, but I could do it better if I know you're happy and safe. Janus rolled his eyes, but understood. Fine, but it better be warm in there. The two of them made it back to Patton's room, and Patton tried to lay Janus down on his bed, but he seemed not to like that. This bed is too stiff for my back. I like my pile of scrap fabrics and blankets. Patton thought for a second and snapped his fingers. On the ground by the window, his pile of blankets and the scrap fabrics and his heat lamp appeared. Patton helped Janus wobble to his bed, and they both laid down. Janus lay on top of Patton, letting the rising and falling of the dad's stomach comfort him and assure him that he was safe and okay. With this, he slowly drifted back into his sleep. Patton kept stroking Janus's hair to the beat of a song that he kept playing in his head. It was in 3/4 times, so his hand was in sort of a waltz triangle. He watched as the hairs moved with the impact of the fingertips, pushing them in the opposite way. While he was asleep, Patton stroked his thumb down Janus's scales. They were not slimy, but they felt like heaven on his skin. It was so soothing, and it had a wonderful texture. As Patton petted his scales, Janus' breathing slowed as he kept getting deeper and deeper into his slumber. In that moment, Patton realized that self-care doesn't have to be a lonely activity. It can be letting yourself relax with someone you care about. Chapter 7. Winter Help, mid-March. The air was getting warmer, but there was still a glaze of snow frosted on the ground. Janus was awake more and more, though he was really never not tired. They went through too much coffee with him, which disturbed Logan since it's not good for his snake nor human half, but he still did not say anything because it made Janus happy. An addiction that made you happy was still an addiction, but since they were imaginary, it couldn't cause too much damage to his form. It was breakfast, and Patton was at the stove cooking sausage links in a sizzling pan. Logan was reading at the table with 2 pieces of toast with crofters spread across them. Virgil was in the common area watching Sunday morning TV with Roman by his side. Remus was walking down the hall, Janus's left arm linked in his right to keep the snake balanced better. Morning, Remus. Morning, Jan. I'm making omelets and sausage for breakfast. Remus jumped up and down excitedly as Janus shook his head and went to the floor. Logan sprang up. Janus, are you okay? What's wrong? Janus did not reply, but his hand into the hole near the floor. He pulled out a rat by its tail and ate it. Janus, when did you start taking after me? Remus said, his arms flopping with overwhelming excitement. Kiddo, I'm making breakfast. You don't need to kill a live animal. You killed at least 6 baby chicks with those omelets, and a couple of those pigs with those sausages, so this rat to hold me off for the next day doesn't seem that bad now, does it? Patton wilted back a bit. Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, I'm full. I'm gonna head to the couch with V and Ro. Peace. Janus walked a second to the couch before tripping on his own foot and falling to the ground. Everyone ran towards him to see if he was hurt or not. Roman and Remus helped to turn Janus's body over to see if they could talk to him. He was shaking. His shaking was pretty bad. His human eye was tearing up, and his hands were clenched. The sides know that they were in for a medical trip. Although, when they got closer to look at him, they noticed that he was laughing, shaking, and crying. That was all contributed to the laughing. See that Janus was okay. Roman and Remus started laughing at their own stupidity and thinking that he was tremendously hurt. They started a small chuckle that turned into a roaring laughter. Before they knew it, everyone was on the ground, not being able to breathe from laughing, all except Logan, who only had a small chuckle but found it nonsensical to laugh that hard. "Guys, quiet down," Logan said in a loud whisper. Janus laughed himself to sleep. "We should quiet down so he can rest. This is the most he has been awake in a very long time." Everyone nodded their heads in agreement as Roman and Remus lifted Janus to place him gently on the couch. Janus moved a bit so that he was in between Remus and Virgil, who brought into himself so that they were both holding him. Remus and Virgil chuckled at how cute and soft Janus was in his tired state. He wasn't as mushy, yet harsh, as he was in the beginning, but he isn't firm like he was this summer. Janus never was the type to cuddle. He only liked to cuddle when it was a part of someone else's recipe for self-care, or they really needed a hug. He never really hugged or cuddled for his own wants and desires, yet he has been the most clingy person all winter. Everyone grew closer this winter. Everyone felt a special bond between each other. It was also so nice not to fight all the time. Patton broke the silence as he jumped up and screamed, waking up Janus. "Oh, sorry, kid, I forgot I was making breakfast." Patton ran towards the kitchen with a small cloud of smoke that the breakfast started to form. "I'm going to head up to my room." Everyone looked up in concern at Janus, who was standing up to leave. "Janus, you could stay out here and watch a movie with us," Roman asked, everyone surprised he had been silent for much of the day. "I won't want to be a burden on you guys. It has now come to my full comprehension that you have been taking care of me all winter, when you didn't have to. I don't want to keep you guys watching me." "Janus, it's not like that at all," Patton replied, coughing through a thing of smoke. "One thing you said is that we took care of you, but we didn't have to, and you're right. We didn't have to, but we chose to take care of you because we love you, and you're one of our closest friends." Janus looked confused. "Really?" Patton jumped up to stand by him. "Really?" Logan came up from behind Patton and held his shoulder. "In fact, we had to tell Patton to hold back from taking care of you so much." Everyone chuckled at that, except for Patton, who went a bit red. Roman followed, standing next to Janus and Logan. "And you drive into our skulls how important it is to self-care. But sometimes it helps if self-care isn't just by ourselves," Roman said. Then Virgil joined them. "Sometimes it's better if you can take care of yourself with the comfort of loved ones." Remus stood up and whined, getting everyone's attention. "Come on, I'm not made for this. You guys had to take turns saying these heartfelt things and smarty things. I want to contribute too, you know." Logan shook his head. "The word smartness does not fit into the context of that sentence, Remus. I don't even think it's a word." "See, I just proved my point." Janus giggled and opened up his arms. "Remus, come here." Remus then lightened up and came running towards Janus. The others tried to stop Remus from ramming into him, but nothing could stop the trash rat. Both Janus and Remus were on the ground, both laughing at each other for the others to join in. Chapter 8, Warm Hearts, May. Janus was fully mobile again, without needing to hold on to anyone or falling down. Everything was back to the way it was in August, except Janus had kept his coffee addiction, which Logan was not pleased with, but did not argue nonetheless. Over the winter, they have grew onto each other, both figuratively and literally. Yeah, no joking, they cuddled all the time. They all mutually agreed that snuggles are pretty neat, and they should make it a thing where they watch a movie together in one of their rooms every other day, or sometimes even a couple days in a row. They enjoyed getting together and watching that kind of stuff. Most of the time, it was Disney, but Every so often when they were in the fields, they watched their DVD of Guys and Dolls. They had the film version of it on DVD, and it was Janus's absolute favorite. It would have been his second favorite if they had Chicago on DVD, but still. He didn't know how to make him so happy when it makes everyone else so sad and reminiscent, but he just liked it all. They started going outside more and more, bit by bit, as a group of 6 of them would go swimming in the summer all the time. Most of the time, they would swim at the beach. Patton, Rowan, and Remus would be having fun in the water as Logan would lay on the beach, chair reading until he was pulled into the water. Janus would lay down and relax and sunbathe until he was also thrown into the water, and Virgil would come in when he had calmed down his breathing from the other 2 being thrown in. During late summer evenings, Janus loved sitting under a tree watching the sunset while popping open a bottle of wine. "Hey, Janus?" Janus turned around to see Patton standing beside him. "Yes, Patton?" The dad figure came and sat down next to Janus. Before you begin, would you like Patton, before you begin, let me cut you off here. Would you like a glass of wine yourself?" "No, I don't drink. Getting drunk sounds scary." Janus let out a chuckle. "Yeah, people make drinking sound scary, and it is to an extent. But as long as you don't drink a lot, you should be fine. And 2, you're imagined by Thomas. You aren't real. You can have wine and have no repercussions. I choose to still get drunk and have a hangover and such things to get the full experience, like a human." "Yeah, but I don't want to risk hurting Thomas." Janus nodded his head up and down slowly as to not make himself sick from the movement. Understandable, so I'm guessing they got a reason for coming out to see me." Patton's gaze, that had since been on the sunset, was turned swiftly back to pay full attention to Janus. "Yeah, well, I just wanted to check on you, kiddo. You really scared me over the winter." Janus smiled, letting his eyes soften to comfort Patton without the obvious signs. "I'm feeling a lot better. The trip that was that winter had taken me through what was painful, tiring, and confusing. It made me think about so many things I thought I had figured out, but there's no pressure. I understand that I was going through a lot, so where are the people around me? Even though every voice was telling me that it wasn't, I knew that I would be okay, and I'd make it out. I knew I was loved, and at the time, that is all I needed for myself. I felt empty and useless for not contributing to the group, in fact, doing the opposite because you guys were taking care of me, but you're right, it was your choice. It shows just how much you care by helping me when I wasn't even awake enough for me to ask you guys. Thank you, Patton. I'm thankful of everyone else as well." All Patton could do now was lean into Janus and hug him tight. He hesitantly returned it, but soon he melted into the touch. "Janus, now that you went through this, what are some ways we could better help you next winter?" "Well, Patton, you guys did everything just right to help me. I felt fine, but what you really need to do is prepare yourself for next winter. If you or any of the others are going to do what you did this year, don't. You guys need time to take care of yourselves. I was knocked out most of the time. I really didn't care. Sit back and chill. Everyone needs to be doing that, including you, Patton." Patton got a little restless and wiggled a bit at the comment. "Thanks, kiddo. I'm glad you're feeling better." Patton walked away, and Janus poured another glass of wine as he watched the golden and warm sun go down on Earth's horizon. Thank you so much for listening. This story was a really, really fascinating one to write. I thought it'd be longer, but, this was a good place to end, and I didn't know how to go into much detail about what happened over the winter when I originally wrote it. I think that was like a couple months ago, so yeah. Once again, if you have any ideas for my 100th episode next week, let me know. If you'd like to read this book or any of my Wattpad books, they'll be in the description below, along with my Twitter, Instagram, Wattpad, any of that, down there. There's also a link to my second channel where you could watch my lives when I go live. My friends' channels are also in the description below, so like Diamonds and Emeralds and Dust Mighty, they're in the description. They make fabulous content. I would surely suggest checking them out. Now on your screen, there should be 2 channel icons. One is my regular channel to watch my videos, and the other one is a live channel. Then you'll see some playlists and things that you should probably check out on screen. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like my content, and like always, do your best.